Hi everyone, and today I'm going to talk to you a bit about privacy beyond the norm, and how we get there. Have I got? Yeah. Okay. So I think privacy is where's the slide? Okay. Am I getting good? It's working? Not working? Okay, we'll start here. So I like to think that privacy isn't this scary thing. It really is just a spectrum between something that is totally public and something that's completely secret. When information is public, everyone sees everything. When something's a secret, only you know what that is. And in between, we have all these different types of privacy. On one hand, we have what I would like to say that public ledgers are today, which is their pseudo-anonymity. You have a single identity, or you might have a few identities, but I don't particularly know if that's you. We have things like selected disclosure, which you might hear about when you're reading the Aztec docs, for example, or different ZK VMs or SNARK or Stark systems, where you can reduce the amount of information that you're leaking. The classic examples that people will go to is when you give somebody your ID, you perhaps just want them to check your date of birth and not where you were born. Increasingly, private things include things like confidential transfers. You can't tell how much I'm sending somebody. Anonymous transfers, you don't know who I am, but you can perhaps see how much I'm sending. And then you have more sort of privacy maxing features, which are confidential and anonymous transfers. You don't know who I am, and you don't know how much I'm sending. But there was one slide on here that I wanted to show you. It's this one. And I think this is a pretty prevalent sort of comment style that I've heard recently. I'm not going to tell you who said this. Maybe find me after this and I'll tell you. But they said that privacy was more of a sci-fi thing to them, something that was very foreign. I think this is representative of where privacy is today and what I would consider the norm of what it does. And what I want to convince you of is that privacy is not something that's far-fetched or sci-fi-ish. It's very real, it's very cool, very interesting and fun. And what do we have today in this regard? We have really great primitives. We have anonymity sets. It's a really common design pattern these days. Incremental Merkle trees is what Tornado Cache runs on. We have good encryption. We have somewhat homomorphic encryption. And today, progressing, becoming faster and better is fully homomorphic encryption, which is what people like Zama are doing. We have stacks and snarks, different proving systems for different purposes. And these manifest in products such as Tornado Cache, where you have anonymity sets and anonymous transfers. You have confidential tokens and transfers like Zephyr does. Zephyr is a general design pattern, and the implementation that we have on Starknet is called Tongo. Then you have other things like chains in general, like Zcash and Monero, where you can do confidential and anonymous transfers, just to get us all the way down that privacy distribution. But there's this question of why hasn't it hit mainstream UX? And really, in my opinion, that's because these things are isolated. So, simple question, who's used Tornado Cache here? Anybody? Anybody use Tornado Cache? Put your hand down. You shouldn't lift your hand when I say that. So when you use Tornado Cache, you've got to copy-paste something into the web UI. And what you're copy-pasting is what's called a note. And you really shouldn't be copy-pasting private information like that into a web UI. It's really dangerous. It's akin to saying, hey, this is my private key. I'm just going to copy-paste it into the browser. Don't do that. It's silly. But this is one of the reasons why I think privacy hasn't hit mainstream UX. It's isolated from the user experience, or it's not abstracted away well enough. And when people have tried to bring it into the mainstream, it still feels alien, and the interaction design is just different. People don't know what's going on. They're not sure of it, so they're not confident in it. But what if privacy was a first-class citizen in wallets and applications? And so in a weekend, the click is not working again. There we go. So this is a confidential wallet that I built one weekend. It's using the Zephyr design pattern. It's on Starknet. It uses that confidential token protocol called Tongo. And what I hope to show you is that this is nothing special. I can't really see the value add of what confidential transfers or a privacy-first wallet's doing. It's just regular. It doesn't feel any different to me. And if I showed you this network, which is a little explorer view of what's going on behind the scenes in this confidential token, I could tell you that this blue network is you and your interactions. All these gray nodes are other people who are sending confidential transfers to each other. These green nodes are public accounts that we might know the identity to. And you go like, I don't really see the value add, right? And I don't think my mum would care either. And so we begin to ask questions of what is valuable here? Can we do something that's slightly different from the norm of just saying, hey, privacy is a first-class feature here? Is there something more we can do? Is there something else we can build? And so in trying again, I built a poker app. And this poker app is basically an implementation of a cryptographic protocol called mental poker. And so going beyond the norm, but perhaps rather going back to first principles, cryptography is a wonderful world where a lot of examples are shown through games, and mental poker came about with cryptographers trying to play poker against each other trustlessly over the phone in the 70s or 80s. And this is just an implementation of that. And where you have privacy as a first-class citizen within the wallet, your whole cards are treated much like your private keys in your wallet are. It's not something you would expect to see in a regular wallet. Something is a little different, perhaps a little more friendly than just confidential transfers. But these whole cards are secret information. Only you know what they do. And because we're playing poker, because we're playing cryptographic poker here, the wallet does a whole lot more than it usually does. It's not as dumb or as simple as the regular wallet is in terms of just being able to sign transactions, manage your private keys, and interact with a web page. In this case, it interacts with a web page. It does provable shuffles. It can verify shuffles. It can reveal cards. It can interact with a web page in new and interesting ways to help facilitate this game of mental poker. So perhaps there's a little more value. Perhaps I can convince you that playing poker in a wallet where privacy features of first-class citizens is a little more interesting, a little different, a little beyond the norm. And there's sort of two ways I can give this talk, right? There's one where we can go down this really crazy privacy route where I talk about a bunch of stuff that's very illegal, very crazy, very odd. And there's this other side where we can talk about really fun and interesting arenas. And I think the way of building beyond the norm with privacy to make it valuable, to make it obvious to the end user what it's doing and how it's facilitating it and improving experiences is simply that. Build different dimensions that extend existing experiences. And I think this is the key takeaway from this talk today. And to show you that, there's two categories I want to talk about. One is in gaming, and the other one is in prediction markets. And so the two gaming examples I want to talk about are both on Starknet. On Starknet, we have this fantastic game called Loot Survivor. If you haven't played it, go to lootsurvivor.io. Go get yourself a game, go have a play. It's a roguelike game, it's a dungeon crawler, and you can also call it something like pay to die. So you just keep going until you die. It's really fun, and we've got a really fantastic community on Starknet building in this direction at the moment. So what's privacy got to do with this? Well, at the moment, Loot Survivor is a one-directional game. It's one dimension. And you keep going until you die. There's no home base. You're not particularly improving any skills per se. You have a character, but they don't have many traits. And so what privacy can do here is we can do some interesting things with quest masters. We can create a quest protocol. We can use something called Semaphore, which is from our friends at the PSE team at Ethereum Foundation. We could add honor meters. So what does this really mean? What does this really look like? What's it doing? If the clicker works. There you go. So we can have these quest masters, and these quest masters come together to form an anonymous group, and these quest masters can be benevolent or malevolent. You don't know, but you know they exist, you know that they form a group, and what they can do is they can give you a quest. Hey, Teddy, go reach level 12, go rescue the person in the tower. I go, great, I've got a quest from my dungeon master, but in return, I'm risking my honor meter. So I risk whether the dungeon master was good or evil against my honor meter. And so once I've received this quest, I've completed it, my honor meter will go up and down depending on whether the dungeon master was good or bad. And what that results in is people becoming increasingly evil or increasingly good. And you create a community that's building a little more character, a little more interest. And this is all because privacy adds this additional dimension to Loot Survivor in this regard. So you can create communities that become more Jedi or more Sith to some degree, which I think is really fun and cool. We also have this game called Blitz Eternum on Starknet, and it's the most advanced on-chain game ever built. It's fantastic. There's another season starting next week. If you catch me after this, I'll send you a link to it. But how can privacy add another new and interesting dimension here? Well, specifically, we can create this fog of war on-chain done well in one of the best games in Web3. And you can do this specifically with having these sort of confidential armies and resources. And a more simple example would be if we're playing Risk and I want to move troops across Europe or across Asia, I can hide how many troops I have there. And you can say, I think Teddy's bluffing. Teddy's not got many troops in Europe or in Asia. And I'm going to prove that by attacking him. Lo and behold, I might have all of my troops in one position, and suddenly you're snookered. Right? But in doing so, I've revealed other information. I've revealed information that might be elsewhere. And so in Eternum and other games like Risk, like real-time strategy games, we can create that fun, more conducive to interaction game with privacy just by hiding a little more information and allowing people to create new and fun strategies. Prediction markets are different to games, but also present a really interesting case where privacy is a new value add. And there's two types of prediction market variants that I want to touch on. One is called opportunity markets, and the other one is called peer prediction markets. They differ based on how the incentive structures work. Opportunity markets work much more with a motivator. Somebody is paying people for their information, and a peer prediction market has incentives baked into its scoring design through Bayesian truth theorems and things like that. What they're really good at is for eliciting things like intel, for private forecasting tournaments, for things like whistleblowing. So you can imagine that opportunity markets can be as simple as what the opportunity market paper defines. They look at the example of VC scouting, and so a VC can say, hey, scouts, which of these companies will return the highest ROI from an investment? And we can share private signals, and depending on how good the scout is or how accurate they are, the more money they get. But you can also get really crazy with intel and whistleblowing. You can imagine if there's a murder in a community, you can have a whodunit market. So you can pay people to reveal information and share their private signals. What they differ from prediction markets in general, like we know today in Cauchy and Polymarket, is these are much more information biased markets. You pay for information in these cases opposed to others. And then the last point I'm going to make on privacy, adding new dimensions to applications on prediction markets in general. I saw this over the Christmas break. Polymarket and Cauchy have these great builders programs at the moment, and I've seen a lot of people building copy trading products, and these are really terrible for prediction markets because they break that general domain that prediction markets are. You participate in a prediction market because you would think that the yes or no token, for example, is underpriced or overpriced, depending which side of the market you want to participate in. But if you're copy trading off somebody else's belief. And that breaks. You're being exploited at that point. You are the dumb money in the market if you're copy trading. And where privacy can add value here is help prediction markets like we know today, like Polymarket and Cauchy, return to their core principles, specifically with anonymity sets. You need not have many wallets. You can just have one wallet. You can manage a note registry that allows you to participate in the prediction market and not be tracked. And that preserves your private alpha. It prevents, or at least raises the cost of copy trading, and it reduces that herding. And in prediction markets, you want a lot of heterogeneous information, a lot of heterogeneous private signals. You don't want people copy trading in that regard. So that's just a less obvious way that privacy can add a new dimension to prediction markets, helping them return to their core primitives. So some simple takeaways from this talk is wallets really need to do more. If we want good privacy applications that integrate, that allow for new privacy products and protocols to exist, they got to do more. They got to do a damn lot more. They've got to ship privacy features as defaults. Privacy isn't just for hiding stuff. It should unlock new mechanics. When we have quest masters who can hide, whether they're malevolent or benevolent, we create new dimensions where people can create fun and interesting new communities. And particularly in other games like Eternum, you can create new and interesting strategies and help induce more gameplay. And then finally, in prediction markets, privacy really does raise the bar and help them to return to their fundamental values. So what I would like to finally say is we should stop treating privacy like a side quest and actually go out and build great experiences and products with good privacy primitives that are obviously valuable to end users. I think that's the key takeaway here. So that's all the talk. It's only a short one, but I hope that privacy wasn't something that was scary or something that was like arcane and alien to you. It can be really fun, interesting, and that point on privacy in games can add more fun per second, I think is the best, best quote I've come up with so far. So anyway, that's the talk. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. Appreciate the time.